Hello, everyone. It's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria. I have a master's of science in human nutrition, and I'm here to help you build a high functioning metabolism on a high carb, low fat diet. So, we're aiming for insulin sensitivity here, and according to the dietetic factors influencing glucose tolerance and insulin sensitivity requires the diet to be sufficient in carbohydrates and low in fat. So we're avoiding any form of starvation or low carb eating, and we are keeping the diet low in fat. So you can eat as much as you want. Eating this way of your favorite high carb, low fat foods. Do you have to be exclusively raw? Is today's question. So we are going to be taking a look at raw food romance today, Melissa Morris or Alyssa, and her experience on a high carb, low fat, raw vegan diet. So I don't eat exclusively raw vegan. I do like to eat fruit until 4 is what I've been calling it. So I'll have fruit all day, maybe with some sugar added. Lately, with some sugar added for sure, extra sweetness, extra energy, extra carbs, insulin sensitivity. They use a glucose load of about 50 to 100 grams for an oral glucose tolerance test to test for insulin sensitivity. And according to Percival Himsworth, an excess of carbohydrate in the diet, including sugar, will promote insulin sensitivity. So, and increase your tolerance for sugar. Whereas what impairs sugar tolerance is, you guys know this, a diet with a high content of fat or starvation. So we're talking about fasting, water fasting, any kind of situation where you're not taking in enough carbohydrates. So juice fasting can fall into this category as well. Mono meal eating of fruit. So, a lot of raw vegans, unfortunately, are guilty of under eating on carbohydrates. So just because you're eating the carbs doesn't mean that you're getting in enough. So you need to be objective here with having an idea of how much that you eat a day and making sure that it is sufficient. So I generally recommend for baseline, sedentary women consume about 2,000 calories a day. So this is a minimum, right? And for men, about 2,500 calories a day. Those are your goals, okay, for moving towards insulin sensitivity and improved glucose tolerance. So I don't make the rules here. The research does. Okay, so going back to Melissa Morris, she has been eating a raw vegan diet. She's been very militant about this raw vegan diet. And the way that she started her raw vegan diet was with a high carbohydrate, low fat vegan diet. So these are her older videos. We're just going to kind of skim through. But you can already see here 6 months as a raw vegan. She's lost a significant amount of weight. Here we got a before and after. Before and after, before and after. So she lost a lot of weight eating a high carb, low fat, raw vegan diet. So was it because it was raw vegan that promoted this level of weight loss, or was it the macros? So I'll tell you, it's the macros, okay? So what I eat in a day as a low fat, high carb, raw vegan. So we're going to take a look at this video to get started.
Meet the Skin Essentials diaper with...
Oh, the ads. Yeah, so I eat fruit until 4, and then I eat starches and vegetables generally at night, and that combination works great for me. So let's look at Alyssa's diet when it was high carb, low fat. So she was in a weight loss mode.
This is the best thing that you can do when you wake up. Good morning, friends. I'm here. I'm filming another What I Ate in a Day video.
Okay, so she's having water to start the day. Then, okay, now we're getting into a smoothie.
Almost out of bananas, which is rare. I just haven't gone in the last few days. It's been pretty busy. So I'm going to get on that today as well.
Okay, so she's got dates, bananas, looks like 4 bananas, 4 dates, and some greens going in the smoothie. And then there's a scoop of something over here. Maybe I missed it when she was talking about it. So we're going to go backwards.
If you don't follow her, you should, because she's super awesome as well. Gonna use some blackberries in there too, and I need to go shopping because I am almost out of booze. A cup or two of spinach arugula mix, 3 ripe bananas, 4 dates, and a tablespoon of chia seeds. And I owe that to Miss Tanny Raw, and I'm going to put a link to
Tanny Raw, what happened to her? She quit the internet. But her diet, she went from, 3,000 calorie raw vegan fruit based to pretty much off a cliff, focusing on low GI, low fat raw vegan eating, will make somebody leave the internet, because where's your energy coming from? Can't just survive on greens. We have calorie requirements, and Tanny was looking really, really skinny there. So, and then she left the internet. So, who knows what she's up to now.
her channel too. If you don't follow her, you should, because she's
Okay, so we got 4 dates, 3 bananas, some chia seeds, some greens, and some blackberries for a smoothie. Now, when I followed Melissa's, I actually followed her diet. When after I had my first child, I was probably 3 months postpartum, and I was interested in doing a raw vegan diet. And I Melissa was new to YouTube, and I thought her recipes looked cool. And so I bought her ebook, her very first ebook, and it was relatively high carb, low fat. For me, it ended up not being high enough in calories. So, her next meal here, she is showing some salad ingredients that she's going to be putting together, because from what I remember is it was a smoothie in the morning or fruit. And the smoothie that she made just then, it was 3 bananas, 4 dates is about 500 calories. 600 calories is all that smoothie came to, maybe 650. And then she would have a salad for lunch, and with a fruity dressing, so it would be low fat. And then she would have a kind of a higher fat dinner, but still, like, it was her diet was 80-10-10, like in terms of the macros. I don't think her calorie intake was too high. There's a salad that she just made with the, fruity dressing. And I think her calorie intake was only like 2,000 a day, but 80-10-10 macros. And she did show, that she's eating like meeting all of her nutrient requirements, eating all of her nutrient requirements. I found this diet to be unsustainable because I needed more carbs. I don't think Melissa has any kids, so sometimes you can ride out lower calorie intake when you don't have as much responsibility. So that is something to keep in mind. But like I said, minimum calorie intake for women, 2,000, minimum calorie intake for men, 2,500. So this is getting into her dinner, and she's making some kind of, raw, kind of gourmet, like salad, very similar to what she is currently doing right now. Only she's really taking it up a notch. She's like a raw vegan chef basically, in terms of what she does for work. And yeah, I think she's made a really good business for herself. So now we're going to go over macros. Yep, I was right, 2,000 calories. Okay, let's see what else she's going to show. Oh, I think that's it. Okay, here we go. Macros. Yeah, so fat grams 20 for 8%, 44 grams of protein, 45 grams of protein, which is, the RDA for protein for women, and then about 500 grams of carbs. So, what I would do to change this around a little bit, I'd bump the carbs up and decrease the fat grams. But this is still low fat. And most people, they're not willing to eat more carbs, and they would prefer to have more fats in the diet. In terms of insulin sensitivity, lower fat is better for insulin sensitivity. Once you start getting over like 30 grams of fat a day, you're going to be promoting, insulin resistance. It's going to start creeping up, and you're going to start experiencing blood sugar issues like Jillian Berry just did, for not accounting for the fat that's in her diet. What else I'll say about Melissa is her food combining was good. In this video, she had the majority of her fat at the end of the day. What she could have done is just taken the chia out of the smoothie. She was already adding blackberries, which contain seeds. So the extra seeds just wasn't necessary. And honestly, she said that Tanny Raw had, inspired her to do that. Most of her recipes for smoothies did not contain added seeds. So anyways, macros and everything looks good. I generally recommend for fat intake to stick to around 10 grams of fat a day. This will allow you to eat more carbohydrate, which is going to also allow you to meet your protein requirements really easily. But then, I like eating unlimited carbs and keeping my diet super low in fat. So the more fat that's in your diet, the more conscientious you have to be about the effect it's going to have on your blood glucose, because dietary fat can impair glucose tolerance. So that's it for this little video. And this is, something she filmed a long time ago. So I just wanted to use it as reference for what we're going to look at next, and just, again, show her aesthetic. You guys saw mine at the beginning of the video, the aesthetic that you can expect eating a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet long term. So we've got, she just kept losing the weight. But then, I did hear that Melissa kind of she went through a divorce, and she started under eating, and then started getting into fasting, and that kind of derailed her a little bit. But ultimately, she got really great results eating high carb, low fat. I think though that her diet was inevitably going to be a little bit problematic, just because of the calorie intake being at the minimum. And so when you want to do more exercise, which I think that she was never consistent with, other than with walking, which is what she was, her goal to be consistent with exercise was to just have a consistent walking routine. That had to do with her calorie intake being on the lower end. Okay, so you guys get an idea of Melissa here before and afters, pretty impressive. Okay, so we are going to go to her current videos. Actually, I want to show you guys what she currently looks like, okay? Okay, let's see here. She uses some old images here. Those are popular in some of her newer content, but she did do a video because she doesn't show what she looks like in her videos, and that was probably one of my biggest, she would take pictures and show what she looked like, but she never showed a full body shot in a lot of her content, like Freely the Banana Girl did. So that was probably one of my biggest criticisms, is as people want to see you in real time and what you look like, because people can Photoshop images and stuff like that. But anyways, those are oldest still, so latest. Okay. All right, so this is all of her new content. So this is Melissa now, and she is about 45 years old. And I want to show you guys what she looks like now. She did a video with Chef AJ. Okay, right here. And I'm not here to, do anything other than make observations. I know I upset people in the comments sometimes. You guys are like, "Oh, you're making fun of this person or whatever." And that is not my intention. I'm just pointing out, things that I notice as people change. When you're on social media, you kind of put yourself out there to be criticized. But okay, let's see here. All right. So this is one of the first times I think I ever have seen Melissa actually in like real time in a video clip. So here she is with Chef AJ. So I'm just going to play the B-roll here. I'm not actually going to, yeah. We'll start it from here. Actually, I want to show this. Now, something that you don't also get to see is Chef AJ in real time either, and she is looking very, very slim, probably borderline underweight. And, I know that she's dealing with cancer right now, but, sufficient glucose is always a good thing, right? So Melissa, I was actually surprised to see her looking the way that she does, just because I think that she looks healthy and all that, but I also think that she looks like, in comparison to her older images, she just looks like she is carrying a little extra weight, and that is going to be normal when you don't control for the fat intake in your diet. So it's really easy as a raw vegan. I mean, look at Melissa in comparison to Chef AJ. I think she looks a lot healthier than Chef AJ. Chef AJ's clothes are like falling off of her. She's just so skinny, and I know that Chef AJ undereats and subscribes to low calorie density, and also does water fasting and all that, which, it's all unfortunately damaged her metabolism and hasn't exactly been beneficial for what she's dealing with now. Melissa, I think that she looks healthy, but like I said, just looks like she's put some weight back on, which, if she did go through a period of fasting, you've got adaptive thermogenesis, but that's only going to last so long. Once you start eating again, your metabolism's going to increase and you'll be back to, burning fuel efficiently, especially if you're eating sufficient carbohydrates. But if you're not eating sufficient carbs and your diet is higher in fat, this is going to impair your glucose tolerance and encourage the storage of fat more so than the burning of fat. So that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so they're talking about a book here. And something else to note about raw vegans, right? And I talked about this in the video I did about Jillian, is that if you aren't eating enough fruit, you're naturally going to default to fats. So you have two sources of calorie dense foods on a raw vegan diet, and that's going to be your fruits, which actually by default are low calorie density, and then your fats, your nuts, your seeds, your avocado, which are higher calorie density. Dates are also high calorie density, but I think Melissa and I got into it one time where I said, she said that you can eat too many dates. And I said, I don't think that that is true, because I don't think that somebody can eat too many dates. You can have too much fat in your diet, but I don't think that you can eat too many dates. Okay, dates are never the issue, it's the fat. But, I think something that helps to keep a raw vegan, which, let's be honest, half of the stuff that they consume has been heat processed in some kind of a way, especially, sprouted grains like these oats over here, and a lot of nuts and seeds, and other like superfood protein powders, things like that. So they're not technically raw, but that's where your like savory meal is going to come in. And what is going to satiate you with your savory meal if you're not having carbohydrate, So my savory meal at night contains, oh, there goes the nuts. My savory meal at night contains rice, potatoes, predominantly. I've also made pizza and pasta and things like that. And then I add, a savory sauce to it, and that hits a spot. Well, in their case, you're dealing with like zucchini pasta, cauliflower rice, some kind of dehydrated um cauliflower, seed mixture crust for a raw vegan pizza. And these foods just aren't going to satisfy you like carbohydrates would. So then you end up just by default eating more fat. So, okay, we are going to look at one of Melissa's most recent What I Eat in a Day videos. So we're going to start it right here. See how her diet has changed.
For my walk, I try every day to go for at least a 45-minute walk, if not longer, trying to get around 10,000 steps a day. I also drink about 2.5 liters of water on this walk. This is what I've been doing recently. When I got back, I needed.
I'm eating grapes, and she's dumping grapes into a blender. I think the walk is great. Doing your exercise first thing in the morning is the way to get it in, because then you're done with it for the rest of the day and you don't have to think about it. But doing a 45-minute walk without any kind of sugars in your system can actually set you up for having blood glucose issues later on. Ideally, when you get up in the morning, you're going to want to have some kind of sugary something. It could be as little as 1 grape, 8 ounces of juice, an apple, a date, some Sour Patch Kids, but those aren't raw. And this will get your metabolism going and also decrease cortisol. So if you exercise in a fasted state, you are going to be telling your body that, one, we need to make more fuel for this exercise. And if you run out of glycogen overnight, which, if you're not eating enough calories the day before, it's very possible that that could be the case. Then you're going to be turning on gluconeogenesis, which we want to avoid, because that will elevate cortisol further until more carbs start coming in, and kind of programs us for insulin resistance, which is going to promote fat storage. So again, just referencing dietetic factors influencing glucose tolerance. Starvation impairs sugar tolerance, so it decreases insulin sensitivity. So just something to keep in mind. The walk and the water are great, but she should have a little snack, a fruity snack, sugary snack before her morning exercise. Break the fast.
Did my smoothie. So I dug into Chris Kendall's book again and made the banana grape treat smoothie. This is so delicious. Definitely one of my favorites. I had it multiple times during the bundle because it is so delicious. I use a variety of different grapes, but you could use any grapes you like. Then,
so she didn't share the recipe, but she said grape, banana, smoothie. So I'm assuming that maybe that's all that was in there, which is great. you know? I think that having a fruit smoothie for breakfast is excellent. You can have fresh fruit for breakfast, or you can have a fruit smoothie for breakfast. You can also add some sugar if it's not sweet enough. Um, I recommend blending your smoothie first and then tasting it. And if it needs sugar, add the sugar. You can add coconut sugar if you want to, but keeping the fats out, which, Chris Kendall subscribes to a pretty low fat diet. And I think that's whose recipes she is referencing here. So, keep the fats out of the smoothie for improved glucose tolerance. Okay.
For lunch, I thawed out the red cabbage that I chopped and froze the night before and chopped up some of the ingredients for lunch wraps. These are, again, from Chris Kendall's Big Banana book, his banana curry. I really wanted to try this because I have never had a savory banana recipe before. So I was very...
Okay. Let's show what this looks like. Oh, what's going in this dressing? Or was she going to show it?
I blended up.
So she's still doing the salad for breakfast now, or salad for lunch. Now I recommend for best results in terms of insulin sensitivity and just digestion in general, because she's got a lot of hard to digest food going in here. Like cabbage, which for me would be like I'm gonna be bloated and gassy the rest of the day if I ate that. It's better to just have fruit here. Okay, make it a fruit meal. Add some dates for satiety and for a little bit different texture. Have some fruit and lollies. Have some fresh fruit, sugar added. Have another smoothie. Have some dried fruit. Have some canned fruit. All fruit is game. Okay, it's actually better than this like vegetable raw vegan concoction stuff.
The curry sauce, and it's really unique and really good. I was quite surprised because you don't think bananas and curry, but it was so good. I mixed it up and added the purple cabbage as well. And this was a little bit watery for the wrap, but I went with it anyways. I knew it was going to be a messy one. And I didn't want to use...
So she didn't show what went into the dressing. But judging by the pour, I'm going to assume that there is definitely some kind of fat element in here.
It's really unique and really good. I was quite surprised because you don't think bananas and curry, but
I don't know. That wouldn't satisfy me at all. I mean, where are the carbs? Unless there's like, are you pouring like a banana smoothie in here? Kind of weird. Okay. Anyways, moving on. Oh, and then she turned it into a wrap. I see. She's really famous for these like wraps, which there is going to be a fat component here. Maybe she talks about
but it is what it is. I don't mind messy food.
I feel like as a raw vegan, you can't mind messy food, especially if you're blending a lot.
So I did have the rest of it as a side salad. So I wrapped up that wrap, and yes, like I said, it was messy, but it is what it is. I don't mind messy food. So here it is.
So I'm going to assume that the wrap definitely has some kind of plant fat in it. They usually use like seeds for the binder.
The wrap, it was very spicy, but not super spicy. It was just spicy enough, and it kept me wanting to eat more. So Chris.
Okay. At least you show yourself eating. A lot of people don't do that. Okay, so now what are we having?
An hour before dinner, I took the burger patties out of the dehydrator and the pizza crust. I was so excited for this one. I haven't had a pizza in quite a while, so I made a tomato sauce for it and started chopping up my peppers and mushroom.
So it looks like she showed a lot of prep at the beginning of this video in terms of ingredients. Yeah, for like her pizza base.
The 3 banana wraps that you can find in Chris Kendall, the Banana Commander's big banana book that is.
Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of this is like ad promotion, but it looks like she made like a pizza. Okay. It's hard to tell like what is being used here because she's not usually she will say full on ingredients, but she's not because I think that she is um keeping that private so people will buy this bundle that she is selling. Okay, so we're gonna find another what I eat in a day video, but her diet it looks like similar, but I would say that the fat content has increased in comparison to what she was doing prior. Okay, here we go. We'll take a look at this one next.
Liberty. Liberty Mutual is all she talks about since we saved hundreds.
Okay, so we got a smoothie here. So she always starts her day with a smoothie. Okay.
So I chopped it up and got it into the freezer. The next morning, I made the Georgia peach smoothie from Debbie Adler in her ebook called Fruithies. Now, I normally don't put fats in my smoothies in the morning. I prefer to have my fats
That was like a, oh my gosh, how much hemp seed is she adding?
in the afternoon or evening with my salads, but I wanted to follow the recipe exactly as it is in her ebook, just because I really like to try the recipes first, exactly the way the author created them, and then I can adjust accordingly depending.
So she either added, it looked like 3 tablespoons of hemp seed. It kind of looked big, like up against the lens, but I think that's what she added. And people will add fats to smoothies, the raw vegans or, plant-based people in order to thicken it up. But a better option is to just use frozen bananas for a fat-free option.
On my own tastes. And this was a really delicious, creamy smoothie. And I enjoyed this in the morning before I made the Korean cauliflower for the Korean cauliflower tacos. This recipe is in an ebook called For the Love of Tacos by Kevin Black. He's new to the bundle.
Okay, so she's not telling us recipes because she wants us to buy these bundles, but I'm going to suspect there is some kind of fat included here. Otherwise, it would be really watery.
Got those in before I went.
Okay, what's next? Now she's going for a walk. Good. Yay. She's prioritizing the walking. Walking is an excellent way to exercise, but if you really want increases in your VO2 max, you're going to have to push it at some point too. You can push it with walking. I did this in a walking class in college, where we just walked and talked, so low, moderate intensity. And then about once a month, we would have to participate in a walking race. And then we would see how our VO2 max improved every time we did this walking race and how it just, made our metabolism work better, burn more fat, because that's what increasing your VO2 max does. Okay, so now she's having a pasta dish. So she was doing some prep. So I'm assuming this is lunch.
A good lunch. It's the sticky garlic chili noodles from Make It Raw Volume 3. I was wanting something like this for quite a while, and I played around with some different.
What I will say about dishes like this is that it looks very similar to, something that you would get at like an Asian restaurant. And it is a healthier version, but you can make an even healthier version by like using actual noodles and then not having like a fatty sauce that goes with it. I would say though that fat content here is probably not as high as I've seen in some other like raw vegans. All right, there's a little showing of Melissa. Okay, now what are we gonna have?
Called for, and I blended it up and got it onto the Bright Kitchen trays. Now, give or take, I started making the soft tacos for the Korean culture.
So buckwheat is a grain, and it looks like it's being consumed raw here. And I think it just digests better when you cook it.
Cauliflower tacos from For the Love of Tacos by Kevin Black, which you can get in the bundle. So I had some sprouted buckwheat that I ground into a flour as the recipe called for, and I blended it up and got it onto the Bright Kitchen trays. Now, some people might be asking, can I use these trays for your tacos? Lisa, I have your taco book from a past.
So this would just be a low-fat option. I think she just made the flour and, added water here. So that's a great idea. Honestly, I think Melissa's recipes, if you're going to be raw vegan, are a better option than a lot of those super high fat recipes.
Once the soft taco shells were ready, which they were really awesome, nice and pliable, these were the smoky apple ones that I made. I started filling them with the cauliflower that we had been dehydrating most of the day.
I mean, these recipes are super creative, but I just think that like you could also use like no oil corn tortillas that just have like corn and water and lime as the ingredients. And then, add the cauliflower if you want. What is she using the buckwheat for? All of these recipes have some kind of fat content, some fatty like dressing added. But like I said, I don't think she's using a whole lot. So I would say that, Melissa's diet still looks like it's relatively high carb, low fat. I do think her macros have shifted a little bit though. I think that the fat intake is higher now. Protein intake is probably a little higher too. Carb intake is, the same, if not a little less. And I just think that if she wanted to have an aesthetic that is more similar to what she had when she was doing more strict like 80-10-10, then she would just have to shift her macros a little bit. But ultimately I think that if you want to be raw vegan, this is an option here. Melissa has shown that you can be raw vegan and thrive with, variety and her recipes and all of that. But I just think that by being raw vegan, you're restricting a big source of carbohydrate that comes from starches. And I would rather have all of the carbs and none of the fats than, do the raw vegan thing. Anyways, thank you so much for watching the video. Please leave any comments or questions down below. Oh, I do want to show you guys something real quick that I made earlier today. It's my reel about Jillian Berry, who I think Jillian would benefit from taking some recipe advice from Lissa, particularly following her, older content of the 80-10-10 high carb, low fat recipes. So yeah, this is a analysis I did. Well, basically I told you guys how to make this smoothie healthier. So Jillian is making a smoothie here, and I made some adjustments to it to make it more blood sugar friendly. So let's help Jillian make a blood sugar friendly smoothie.
Cashew milk, dish the cashew milk and use water.
So she used cashew milk as a base. I'm saying to just use water instead for a fat-free option.
separate fat-free option.
2 to
Use
4
all of those
ripe
bananas.
She said to use 2 to 4 bananas, ripe bananas. Now, to make this a creamy smoothie, freeze these bananas. So then if you like to have a creamy smoothie because you like to use almond milk or cashew milk or some kind of nut milk, just freeze the bananas because that blended with the water will make a creamy smoothie. And I'm saying to use all of the bananas. So we're ditching the cashew milk and using water. We're going to use all 4 of the ripe spotty bananas, freeze them for a creamier smoothie.
And we'll want to use 3 to 600
all of those
grams of
blueberries.
frozen blueberries.
And then I'm saying to use all of the blueberries here. And then instead of this is protein powder, it's a vegan vanilla protein powder. Use sugar instead. Use a scoop of sugar. This is probably sweetened anyways, you know. Protein and fat impair glucose tolerance, impair insulin sensitivity. So a high carb, low fat meal improves insulin sensitivity. So make your smoothies high carb, low fat. Lissa's got a bunch of recipes, but really it's basic. You know, if you want a creamy smoothie, freeze your ripe bananas. You can use frozen fruit, add water, add sugar, boom, done. You're good to go. Don't get dogmatic here where you can't use canned fruit or dried fruit or frozen fruit. You know, it's all good. Fruit is fruit. They'll say fresh is best, but sometimes fresh doesn't taste good because maybe it's not the right season for it. Maybe it was picked too early, you know. So high Brix value fruit contains an ample amount of sugar naturally. So if your fruit doesn't taste that sweet, then it's likely it was picked early, and you can add some sugar to it to make it more palatable, enjoyable, and to satisfy. So we all have a quota of carbohydrate that we need to hit every day in order to supply our energy needs for our system. Our fuel needs for energy generation in our system is really high, I should say it. And in order to do that, you have to eat sufficient carbohydrates. If you're not going to eat sufficient carbs because you're afraid of fruit or you are eating a raw vegan diet and you're sick of having fruit, so you need your savory, you know, meal, and it just happens to be fatty because that is the only option, then maybe consider, you know, that raw vegan diet isn't the best. So I actually don't put raw vegan diet on a pedestal. I think if you can do fruit-based, it may be, you know, a step up from fruit till 4 starch option, but it depends on so many factors. And honestly, like I've had the best results and I've had the most sustainable diet following just eating all of the carbs. So unfortunately, with being exclusively fruit-based, you can run into issues with availability and you know, going down the path of orthorexia, which we want to avoid. We want to give our body everything that it needs to function metabolically properly. Okay, is to be metabolically healthy, and that's going to include not demonizing, you know, canned fruit if that's your only option that's available. You know, do your best, but have backup plans. The other thing I want to say too is that a lot of people with raw veganism, it gets to be dogmatic where they think that raw food is the only healthy food because it hasn't been heat processed and it's got all its enzymes and nutrients in comparison to cooked food. That's not necessarily the case where raw vegan food is healthier. It all comes down to your ability to eat enough carbohydrate. Okay. And if your default is to eat more fat because your avoiding certain carbohydrates, then that isn't going to benefit your body as well as it would if you weren't afraid to eat, cooked carbs, cooked starch. And Melissa, using the buckwheat flour, she's not afraid of starch. It's just the cooking, and I think that that's dogmatic ideology that, can prevent people from seeing the full picture in terms of metabolic health. So knowing the science is always a good thing and beneficial. So if you want to learn more information about how your metabolism works, get a copy of my coaching program. It's available in the link in the description box. This is my coaching program and how I lost weight, eating a high carb, low fat diet. So very similar results to Melissa. I just wasn't as heavy as her to start. I've been raw till 4 or fruit till 4 way more than I've been raw. So it's not about being raw. It's about being high carb, low fat. So my coaching program includes understanding the human metabolism. So that is the science, the fundamentals of an optimal diet and lifestyle. So those are the principles based on the science. And then we go over diet and lifestyle planning and troubleshooting your results. So my coaching program is very intensive. And it's basically a crash course in just learning, everything you need to know about how your body works and what you should eat in order to have a high metabolism and to decrease body fat if that is the goal. So thank you so much for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave in the comments what you'd like me to make a video about next, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.